C.J. Stroud's pro day performance and the impact that this will have on his draft stock. Tom, where do we go from here?
Well, let's start with this, what happened prior to the pro day, which is that the Carolina Panthers, who are sending a big contingent to all these pro days, and of course own the #1 pick, they had a meeting yesterday with C.J. Stroud in Columbus. They'll obviously be at the workout today. And I am told they're also going to set up another private meeting in Charlotte prior to the draft with C.J. Stroud. Now, again, I would anticipate they do something similar with all these top quarterbacks. It's a thorough process. Owner David Tepper is part of the traveling party that's going to be going around and seeing all these guys in person here. So the stuff that C.J. Stroud and these other quarterbacks are doing off the field, meeting with teams, arguably more important than anything they're doing on the field. But let's talk about on the field. I talked last night to John Beck, who is the private quarterbacks coach for C.J. Stroud. He told me it's going to be about 55 throws today. That's a smaller number than we've seen a lot of the top quarterbacks do at their pro days in recent years. And Beck said you're going to see this with some of the other quarterbacks, too, because this year's combine throwing session was so extensive and they had better types of throws in the script at the combine. The teams don't need to see as much as maybe they have in the past year. So what they really want to do with Stroud is have him emulate some of the things that he did in the Georgia game, since that was maybe the best performance of his college career. Show the movement ability, show that he can get inside and outside the pocket. He knows he's got to excel in terms of going through progressions and all those things. Hard to really show that on air, so they want to showcase what he does best and let him cut it loose.
Wow, I love that. Talk to the quarterback specialist, Beck. Yeah. It's so in the weeds.
That's John Beck from BYU, the old quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah, he trains a bunch of those guys. He's training Bryce Young as well.
He's a second-round pick back in the day. I remember him.
He was, yeah, he played.
Right.
And they develop the script of the plays he's going to run and the throws and all of that.
Right.
Wow. So, and as I look at Pro Day, and I think that's the big takeaway from it is it's all scripted. It's the throws he wants to make. So where he goes in the draft board, I think to what Tom said, is like the meetings, all of those other things when they put the film back on, it's not going to be the throws he makes with his shirt on and his shorts on. It's going to be everything in between the ears that takes place from now all the way up into the draft. And as I look at it, and I heard from Frank Wright yesterday, and when he said was, when you evaluate quarterbacks or players or anything of that sort, there's so many categories, and how you weigh them is the biggest thing. So with him, Bryce Young, how do you weigh their size, their height, and all of those things, I think will come down to where C.J. Stroud eventually ends up. But the pro days are fun because it's a lot of oohs and ahs, and we watched Cam Newton yesterday roll up in the pocket and throw a ball look like 70 yards. So I want to see that from C.J. Stroud today and this afternoon and see what he looks like.
There's a lot of things to think about in this. We talked about this yesterday. The value of pro days and what they mean and what they don't mean, they can dictate a lot. I mean, we've seen some. You know, Tom mentioned yesterday some of the great ones ever. Teddy Bridgewater had a rough pro day back in the day, rough, like infamously, and it really affected him. Weird prospects like Tim Tebow came out, performed well. It affected him well. Like, you could really dictate it today, and we laugh a little bit, and the pro days are like our friends that we like put in a headlock because you're throwing and you're just throwing to receivers. No one's guarding them. There's no pads, and that's fine. And they mean something. They really do. And I think for Stroud especially, he's dealing with a bunch of things. One, there is an Ohio State sort of prejudice out there still, like that still exists even with Justin Fields and all these players. I think some of the fans have that. But also, these pro days have gone to this place where, like, you have to go viral. There has to be some viral moment.
Yeah.
And, like, there doesn't. There really doesn't. You know what I would love when it happens? That there's no clip, there's no TikTok. He just didn't throw up, showed up, threw solid, hit his receivers, and it went fine. Like, you know, last year was the Zach Wilson throw.
Yeah. Or
there was Malik Willis at the end of his workout. Mahomes famously at the end of his reared back and threw one like 96 yards, and you know, the people wept. Just show up, hit your receivers. You don't need to do a backflip throw. You don't need to trend. It's like none of that stuff. Just impress the people with everything we already know you can do. Personally, if I was him, I would bring up one of those giant inflatable movie screens and a projector and just put up my Georgia tape and then walk off without throwing a single pass. Just show it. Hand out popcorn if you want, hand out Twizzlers. Watch me against Georgia. Good night, everybody. But he has to throw a few passes. I don't give a damn if he goes viral or if anybody, you know, faints when he makes a throw. He's really good. We've already seen it. Just confirm that. You'll be ready to go.
Well, if he threw up, it would go viral.
If he threw up, definitely.
The Teddy Bridgewater one is a great pull, too, because you remember, Teddy played his whole college career with gloves.
Took them off.
And then the rumor was, well, does he have really small hands? So at the pro day, he goes, I'm going to take them off. And he couldn't throw without the gloves. So a great lesson there, which is just Do what you've been doing.
thing.
Don't try to reinvent yourself on this particular stage because you're only going to do more harm than good.
There's so many voices, though,
Totally.
telling you what you should or shouldn't do.
I don't know. You should take those gloves off.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the gloves, dude.
It's this weird scenario where you're trying to read. I feel like they're trying to redefine themselves at time because you're like, I was a certain quarterback in college, but then they get to the combine, or then these draft analysts start telling this is the kind of quarterback he needs to be. So then you arrive at your pro day, if you have participated in the combine, you're like, now I'm really going to show you what I've left behind as a college quarterback and what I can become. You're on your home arena. You have your personal guy telling you exactly how you're going to look best. And C.J. Stroud, he did participate at the combine, and people were really interested in what not only he did, but what he had to say, because what you say, then you have to follow through with at your pro day. So let's see how he analyzed himself first.
And one thing about me, I think I'm a ball placement specialist. That's one thing. I like to be very accurate. I don't want my receivers to have to do really anything to catch the ball. And I think I've shown that time and time on film.
I don't want my receivers to have to do anything to catch the ball. Well, that's easy to do at pro day because you know exactly where they're going to be. But that's a pretty important thing, I think, to say about yourself. Is like, if you have me on your team, you will not have to work very hard, Adam Thielen. And you're just going to be able to run your route and catch the ball and take it in.
Ball placement.
Ball placement specialist.
What do you make of this, Mr. X-Player? Pro days. Guys running around throwing in friends.
It was huge for me. I didn't get invited to the combine. So it was like, pro day was my opportunity to have my name kind of be showcased and somebody say, oh, wow, who's this kid from Rutgers? Wow, he ran a 4.3 flat? Let's go back and look at his film. For these guys, there's so many eyeballs on him anyway. Like C.J. Stroud's pro day, if I'm a guy on Ohio State, this is a huge opportunity because C.J. Stroud is there. Every team is going to come watch him play. And it's going to be my opportunity if I go out there and run fast, jump high, jump far, where now they're like, wow, we didn't really realize this kid on film, but maybe we need to go back and take a look at him. So to me, that's the biggest thing. But to your point, for the big-time quarterbacks, you can only hurt yourself if you don't perform because the expectation is so high.
There's also always an interesting dynamic at these pro days is that a lot of times the schools will invite the other local college kids, anybody who's kind of put up by their coaches and things like that. And there's these strange scenes that unfold. I was at the University of Minnesota one several years ago, and there was a kid from Concordia there who everybody else is like wearing their like trainers and stuff, like they've been doing all this stuff. He shows up in basketball shoes. So he's trying to do the broad jump, and he keeps slipping. And they keep being like, we can't count that because he's not wearing the right shoes.
Yeah.
The guy ended up being drafted in the 7th round. He was an edge player. I can't remember his name. I believe he's still in the league. The Rams took him in the 7th round. But it was like you're watching him, you're just going, how is this even possible? And he's wearing like basketball, like big basketball sneakers. And then there's other times where, you know, they're down there, the scouts are on their knees, I'm in the 40, and there'll be some like kid from the local D3 school who's just like lumbering by.
Oh, no.
And they're just like, there's like time, they're just like, oh, no. There's like 80 guys you've got a time in the 40.
Danny Woodhead showed up at the Nebraska Pro Day because he was at Chadron State, I think is the name of Danny's school, and they saw him and they're like, wow, this guy's good, and they had this long career. So you wonder, there's like the kind of like wedding crashers a little bit.
Schools go back and forth when to let those guys perform. I remember at our pro day, the local guys had to go after all of the Rutgers guys went at the very end, hoping that scouts stayed around because you don't want a local guy to come and go while I'm going. It's just like, wow, we came here to see Jason McCourty, but this kid looks way better.
That kid from Fairleigh Dickinson looks awesome.
Chris Garrett.
Chris Garrett.
That was the 7th round pick.
Love
by
you,
the
Chris.
Raiders.
Oh, man.